I was interested in the idea of light, and while the children are returning to the pews, I just want to ask you a question. Do you know how the idea of street light came about? People were, as they were walking the streets, they were walking into the ditches, making, and incidents were taking place. So they came up with an idea that there would be, that the people who are living near the streets, they would be putting some light. That actually, they would leave light in the rooms with the windows facing the street. So some light would be shining on the street, and there will be less incidents. The earliest information that I found about street light comes from 1417, where Sir Henry Barton, the mayor of London, thought that it would be better to do it just that, to leave some light on the street. But actually the earliest decision that was made, it was in Paris, where the first lit order or lighting order came in force in 1524. 1524. This is like 7 years after Martin Luther nailed his 95 theses on the doors of Wittenberg. 7 years after that, the lights or street lighting in Paris was, an order was made to come in place. That was the story. And then later on, it was in 1716, where all the houses were supposed to leave some lights on the street in order to make streets safer. Back in Greece and Rome, they were lighting lights on the street for the sake of keeping communities safer. So people, when people are walking at night, they would be able to see where they are going, so they would not step in the ditch. But also there was another aspect of it. The light was deterring robbers and criminals. So we've got two purposes for the existence of light. And although we have light on the streets today, and we can't imagine a city without much lighting, today, when the cities look like Christmas trees. When you coming down with the plane onto Sydney, mamma mia, you can't see the stars on the sky because of the number of lights that you see on the ground. This is the thing. The light had its purpose. And as I said to the children, even as little light that we cannot even see is already making a difference. Not without reason, not without grounds. Jesus said to his disciples in Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses, well, you should know that. It was the ending of Sabbath school lesson this week, so we should know it. And Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they lit a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." This is how the Sabbath school lesson has finished. This is the instruction or this is the information that Jesus shared with the handful of his disciples, with the handful of the church. I will say even more, I will call it a remnant of the church, because they were only a handful at that time. Can you imagine the big commission that Jesus gave to his disciples, to this handful of people? He said, you are. It's not, let's suppose, what about if you, it's not a suggestion like, how about if you were the light? No, he says, you are the light of the world. What does it tell you, on the other hand? The thing that you will read between the lines, if you are the light of the world, what does it tell you about the amount of existence of light in the world? If the handful of people was the light, or the light of the world, that tells me that there is none other. It doesn't say you are a light, it says the light. Isn't it a huge commission that was given to the handful of these people? How on earth the handful of people were going to fulfill that commission, that job that was light on the shoulders of these people? How were they going to do it? Let us go quickly to Gospel of John chapter 8, verse 12, where Jesus is speaking on the Mount of Olives, was teaching people in the temple and Mount of Olives, and then he was teaching. Then he said to people, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life." Now, in the main prayer today, we requested that it will not be my words that will be speaking to your hearts. Thank you, Mark. But the word will speak to your hearts. The statement that Jesus made is that you are the light of the world. That we have a job in this world. When the orders, where the directions were given in London or in Paris to leave the light on the street, it had its purpose. It was fulfilling its role. And it was dual. To shine the path so people would know where they supposed to go, where they would need to go to keep safe, so they would not walk into a ditch. But also the light was preventing the robbers to do the robbery. True? When we look at what's going on in this world, what's going on? Do we have a need of light? So let us rise and don't be timid and shine. For the light in the world is decreasing, but we are given the commission to shine. When we go to Gospel of Matthew, verse 16, the final sentence that I read, Jesus is saying, "Let your light so shine." When God created this world, he said, "Let there be light." And what happened? And the light could not resist it, but be there. And Jesus is saying, "Let your light, because it's already there, let your light, what? Shine. The word that he is using, he is saying lampsato. Imperative, it's a command. Shine. Arise and shine. That's what he says. Shine. And we've got no other choice but listen to the one who is in charge. Shine. That's the job. Leave the consequences of shining to someone else, to the one who is directing. Don't be timid. How important it is to have the light. When we are reading report on creation in Genesis chapter 1, verse from 1 to 4, we are reading all this information that God was making all these things, and verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. You see darkness, total darkness, just like these men in the dark room in Japan. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and morning were the first day. When we are looking at the account of creation, the very first thing that God is putting in place in making harmony, in creating harmony in the universe, he is putting the light in. So things are getting sorted out. The very first thing. And in the presence of light, darkness could not exist. It had to go. Maybe even, it doesn't need a halogen light. It doesn't need big spotlights. It needs a candle. And the darkness can't do anything else. It will go. It will go. And so that's exactly what happens when the light is present. The darkness goes. Throughout the Bible, anywhere that God is present, anywhere that his messenger, an angel, or a messenger as human being is present there is always light or fire associated. I liked it when Thelma in Introduction to Sabbath School spoke about the fire and what is associated with the fire. One of the other things, apart of temperature and all the other things, with fire we've got associated light. When the light is there, the darkness cannot exist. So what kind of question is pressing on your mind when you hear information that people are getting interested in other religions than Christianity? What is the question that is pressing on your mind? My question the question that presses on my mind is, what's wrong with the light when the darkness is pressing on? Because normally, naturally, in the presence of light, darkness shuns away. So what's wrong with the light? It is not giving enough power out. That's why we need to shine. We need to shine. The light that we need to give, we cannot afford to be timid. We cannot afford not to stand for what we should stand, what we were called to stand for. What was the light? What was the light? The purpose of the light that God put in place? It was to divide, to divide the day in the darker and light part, but it was also providing conditions for living for anything else. There was a time where we went for a cruise. How many of you have ever gone to cruise, for a cruise? And we went to Vanuatu. And on the way from Vanuatu, we stopped in Lifu, one of the small islands of New Caledonia. And in Lifu, we went into a cave. And as we were going down the steps, where there was still some light coming from through the opening into the cave, we could see the path. But we got to the point where there was no more light in the cave. I felt like this, probably like these people in the Japanese experience. But as we were entering into that cave, some of the locals were carrying little torches, and we were laughing, small torches. One of them was fallen apart, and we were sort of thinking, man. But the moment we walked into that cave, that little torch was so significant and so helpful for us. That little torch was shining on our path and showing us where to step and not to slide. That's how important is the light. In the same island, we went to the top of the mountain where there was a church. And I remember one man, we were walking in the group from the same cruise, and people, and I, together with us, there was one blind man that was assisted by another man. And I was a distance away from these people, but I overheard a question, so what's good about Christianity? The blind man asked. Because we visited a church that was empty, not used anymore. And I couldn't believe my ears when the man who was guiding the blind answered like a blind. He said, well, they're good for nothing. They don't come up with anything good. I was too far, actually, to yell. And I felt like, I will chip into conversation where I wasn't invited. But those two didn't realize that if not for Christianity and they came to this island a little bit earlier, they would be made into a dinner if it wasn't for Christianity. That's the difference that Christianity made in the world. They're not good. And this is exactly what is witnessed what happens when Christians are standing up for some principles that are life-giving. And this is our job. Jesus, in John chapter 12, verse 35 and 36 says, "A little while longer the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you." Lest darkness overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light that you may become sons of the light. Do you see what's going on? The first commission that Jesus gave to the disciples, he says, "You are the light of the world." Then he says, "I am the light of the world. Walk with me. Whoever walks with me will become son of the light." And then he See what's going on? If you walk long enough with the source of light, with the original transcendent light, then some of the light will rub on your face. And when the source is gone, your face will still shine. True? We get the steps. Now he says, while the light is still there, walk in the light. Because the time will come when the darkness will be so dense that any light will be important. While you have the light, believe in the light that you may become sons of the light. Then you become. Let me give another analogy. Jesus said to a woman, anyone who will drink of this water will become a spring. Anyone who partakes of this light will become source. Does it make sense? It does. Anyone who believes in the light that will become son of the light. These things Jesus spoke and departed and was hidden from them. This is Gospel of John. And then he says in John 12:46, I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in the darkness. I have come to switch the light on, and then to go, and then leave you as the ones who are light bearers. That's our job. We need to live in the light as we are journeying together with Jesus. We're picking up the light in order that we accumulate the light. You know what is good about trees, and I shared that in Sabbath school, that they are growing only in presence of light. They are storing energy that can be used later on. When you burn the tree, you get the warmth, and you get the fire, and you get the light. True? Did you ever see a plant growing in the absence of darkness? No. Did you see a plant growing in the deficiency of light? Yes. How is it? Healthy, is it? It's growing long and stretching yellow. That's what it is. Absence of chlorophyll. Absence of health. That's what it is. The moment it gets some light, it becomes stronger, and it's healthy. In Ephesians chapter 5, verses 10 to 10, he puts it this way: For you were once darkness. What? You were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord. So, again, repeating in another place of the Scripture, that we were at some point darkness, but because we've come in touch with God, with Jesus, we can become light bearers. We can become sons and daughters of light. Association with light can become source of light itself. How do we do it? Goodness, righteousness, truth. These are the things that are indicating whether you are light or you are darkness. They are the symptoms of the reason behind. In Isaiah 58, verse 10, we find another practical indicator. He says, Isaiah 58, verse 10, and gives a practical suggestion how we can know that we are shining, that we are actually a source of light. And we read this: if you feed those who are hungry and take care of the needs of those who are troubled, then your light will shine in the darkness, and you will be bright like a sunshine at noon. You will be the ones who are actually source. Not the original source, but you will be the sons of the light. One thing that is also characteristics, one thing that is also interesting about light, that in presence of light, it is really difficult to hide things. Not to hide, but hide. So if you intend to keep private, don't come in the presence of light. If you've got something to hide, to keep something secret, don't come out into the sunshine. There is a saying, I don't know if it is in English, if you've got butter on your head, you got it? Don't come into sun. It's normal, you know. This is the thing. Jesus is inviting us to come to light because he wants us to be a genuine article. He wants us to be genuine people. So we've got nothing to hide. So we've got no secret, private things that we would be afraid to show. This is the thing. We don't need to pretend. When we are walking with Jesus, we can, without fear, come out in the daylight. Nothing to be afraid that something will melt and we will dishonor ourselves. This is actually what happens there. He wants us to be as we are. He wants us to be pure and clean and nothing that would be shameful. Only those who were ashamed. And we were talking about Adam and Eve. When they sinned, they started to hide. Cover themselves up. Why? Because something there was telling them that there was something wrong. That's why they wanted to hide. Anyone who has something wrong wants to hide in the darkness. So his realities cannot be seen. In John chapter 3, verse 19 through to 21, it says, "Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hides the light and will not come into the light for the fear that their deeds will be exposed." That's what I was talking about. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. That's NIV. Do you want me to read it in Message? It's even more striking. Let's go. This is the crisis we are in. I love it. This is the crisis we are in. God, light, streamed into the world, but men and women everywhere ran for the darkness. They went for the darkness because they were not really interested in pleasing God. Everyone who makes a practice of doing evil, addicted to denial and illusion, hides God, light, and won't come near it, fearing a blindfold exposure. but anyone working and living in truth and reality welcomes God dash light, so that work can be seen for the God dash work it is. Plain truth. If we are on God's side, we will have nothing to be ashamed of. And with that, we've got nothing to fear about, because God will finish in us the work that He has started. And when it will come to testing of the product, it won't burn. It will stand the test. It will stand the judgment. That's the word. That's the message. In reality of this world, we've got people who are hiding, who want to run away and stay away from the light. And Jesus knew about it. He knew that there will be people who will make the choice to stay in darkness because they hide the light. And while we need to give them a chance to make the choice, how do we give them the chance to make a choice? Let them know that there is another option. Because many people may not even know that there is another option. So we let them know to have a choice. Let them know that there is a choice. Let them have a choice. And when they reject, don't be disheartened. How does he say? Matthew 10, verse 14. And whoever will, he's talking to the disciples going and going with the mission to different towns. Okay? And he says, and whoever will not receive you, nor hear your words, when you depart from the house or city, shake off the dust from your feet. That's not sign of hatred to these people. That's a sign that the experience with these people will not remain with you. Shake the dust off your feet. Shake it off. Don't carry on with feeling guilty that you told them. Maybe you shouldn't. No. You provided choice for them. You made them aware that there is existence of choice. And if they reject it, it's not your problem, not my problem. It's theirs. And then he carries on explaining what will happen as a consequence to the choices that they will make. I will not read those words. You can read them later. Matthew 10, verse 14, and then follow on. There are consequences. So we should not be discouraged when we don't see the immediate results, positive results that we would expect when people will get exposed to the light. We should get on. We should do our job and let the Holy Spirit do His, of convicting and convincing. If the Lord tells us, shine, let us shine and leave the consequences to Him. When the door is shut, don't worry, go to other door. Maybe that one will be open, and shine. Jesus' commission was for us to shine, for us to let His light work in our hearts, but also to commission to reach out to others. May the Lord give each one of us strength and perseverance to stick to the light and shine to the others. So when they learn about the choice that they can make, they will be able and grateful for the ability to have the choice. And that way, Lord's mission will be finished in this world. Even though it is going darker, our mission will still be finished. And as for us, as Joshua said, as for me and my house, let us rise and sing a hymn number 327. I'd rather have Jesus.